We're halfway through the year, and I know we can see on like the hills of after summer some like blockbusters like Wicked and Downton Abbey. But for now, we've actually got quite a few long awaited pieces of cinema that are coming up at the end of June for sure. And we've got book adaptations, we've got National Theatre Live. Well, actually, yeah, why don't we just start with that?
Specifically, I think the one you wanted me to talk about, Riley, is A Streetcar Named Desire. It's a National Theatre live production. So, just to be clear about the nature of this is an older performance that National Theatre have chosen to re-release. So, this has been aired 4 different times. I actually saw it myself back in 2020 during the pandemic. They aired it on YouTube. But the performance is actually older than that. It took place in 2014. I believe it was at the Young Vic. So yeah, it's directed by Benedict Andrews, who's done other National Theatre live performances, specifically another Tennessee Williams play called Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Like you alluded to, the cast is pretty strong in this case. So we've got Gillian Anderson, who plays Blanche, who's sort of the lead character of the play, and then you have Ben Foster. So you'll probably recognize the two female names I'm about to read. The male name's probably not as much, but he's been in X-Men. He's been in a few things, movie-wise, but usually smaller roles. And he's Stanley, and that's the kind of male lead part, played by Marlon Brando, famously in the movie adaptation of Streetcar Named Desire. And then you have Vanessa Kirby, who's probably you've probably seen in The Crown or Napoleon. I thought she was very good in Napoleon as Josephine, and she's Stella, who's she plays Gillian Anderson's sister, and then Corey Johnson, who again largely known for supporting roles in fairly big films. I think fairly mainstream blockbusters. He sort of had smaller parts in. Yeah, Corey Johnson, and he plays Mitch. So, just to give us a little bit of a brief overview, I'm sure many people probably who are interested in watching this are probably familiar with A Streetcar Named Desire.
Mm.
It's, but I will kind of just go over the basics of it for people who don't know, because it might be the first time you're encountering it. So, it's written by Tennessee Williams in 1947. Tennessee Williams is really he's part of like the American literature canon. A very acclaimed writer, kind of up there with like Arthur Miller, if you're at all familiar with sort of like famous American playwrights. But he hails from like a Southern background, so a lot of his stories focus on sort of like Southern American culture and sort of the how it changes and how it impacts the people who experienced it sort of in a more contemporary way. And that is partly what Streetcar Named Desire is about. And it's likely his most sort of enduring and probably his most acclaimed work. And I think, yeah, the one you continue to see performed probably the most.
Yeah.
It's actually my brother's favorite play, and because he studied it during, I think during A-level drama. So again, you can see he's got a very strong presence and influence, and that's in no short part to the famous film that I mentioned earlier, with Marlon Brando and Vivian Leigh, which was actually directed by the original director of the Broadway play. So the narrative premise of it is very character focused. It's very much centered around those four characters that I mentioned earlier. So, but to give sort of the overview of it, so Blanche is our lead character, and she's this woman who she loses her family home in Mississippi, so she's a Southerner to sort of the creditors, and so she's kind of becomes homeless. She's forced to crash at her sister's place, Stella, her sister, in this kind of shabby two-bedroom apartment in New Orleans that she lives with her husband Stanley. And Stella, or sorry, Blanche is quite sort of fragile. She's quite neurotic. But and she has quite kind of a high opinion of herself, but is clearly going through a lot. And she clashes quite a lot with Stanley, Stella's husband, who she sort of sees as being quite common, quite brazen, quite thuggish. Um, and he is immediately suspicious of her and what her background is, why she's really here. And he feels that he might have been cheated out of basically a sizable inheritance because the implication is that Blanche and Stella were originally from quite a wealthy Southern family, um, who owned quite a big family house and plantation, and Stanley feels as Stella's husband, he may have been cheated out of that. And then at the same time, we've got this character called Mitch, who's sort of one of Stanley's friends, a very kind-hearted man who sort of takes pity on Blanche and her struggles. There's sort of a relationship that develops there. And this is all sort of going on at the same time. But really, the narrative focuses on kind of the push and pull between Blanche and Stanley, and where is that relationship going to go? So that's just to give you the brief overview. So originally, it is set in 1947. This play, this version of it, does something quite interesting, and it's set contemporarily to when it was made. Um, so it was, like I said, it was made 11 years ago now in 2014, performed at the Young Vic Theatre, and so it's kind of set in 2014, which but the script remains unchanged, which kind of
Mm.
again, like how they do Shakespeare often, right? They don't change any of
Mhm.
the language, but they give it a new coat of paint. So it's all from sort of just the setting and the clothes and everything. So like, Stanley is sort of wearing like a white singlet and tracksuit bottoms and that kind of thing. Now and like they have a dishwasher and very modern things in their home and kind of all of that. So they kind of make it very modern and it changes sort of the look and feel of the characters. So Stanley, kind of like I alluded to before, his dynamic changes quite a lot because in 1947, the way he behaves and is arguably he's meant to be kind of a you know toxic guy for 1947, so that is exaggerated even more so when it's meant to be set in 2014. And they kind of make him, he's almost like this sort of like white trash, kind of like fratty bro, kind of like the way he's done in this, which is not quite usual for Stanley. It's an evolution of it, perhaps, but it's again, it kind of gives you a different kind of performance to key into. Again, the staging is quite to go with that kind of modern setting. They make kind of use of like modern technology even. So it was performed in the round, and if you don't know what that means, it just means the audience is around every side of the stage. Um,
Interesting.
and they're on it's just the whole thing is basically just set in their apartment, Stella and Stanley's apartment.
It's a
And
very immersive like way to do theater as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, like I've performed in the round, like um you basically can't turn yourself off at all at any point because like every way you look, an audience member can see your face. So and the way that you have to do blocking as well, you can't kind of like have your back to anyone at any point. So you have to constantly like be like moving around. So it's like and it's very like tight and
mm,
as I said, like immersive in. So yeah, like just for context, it's um it creates this kind of like relationship with the audience and the actors where you feel a lot more connected to them than you would be as like if they were like just on like a
mm.
stage in front of you.
Very exposed.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's very
actually,
exposing.
I'm glad you jumped in there because that is definitely quite important. And but an additional factor is as well is that sometimes the set itself spins
Yeah,
during
Hmm.
it as well. So again, there's that sense of dynamism, and like you say, it's kind of like continuous and flowing. You
yeah,
know,
and it's so strange because you have to like consider like every audience member has like a different view of like what the
mm,
set is. So yeah, like with the way that kind of if a set is spinning, um, like everyone kind of has a different view of it. Um, so yeah, like it's yeah,
yeah,
just like it's not even related to like the performance itself specifically, but like you've got to
mm,
adapt your like
yeah,
performance
yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of yeah,
But
cater
it,
to
but it,
everyone.
but what it means in the terms of this specific
Yeah,
performance, like you say, because they can't hide away from anyone, it's
exactly.
they're naturalistic the entire time. So it's quite interesting because obviously we've got actors who've done a lot of films, especially Vanessa Kirby and Gillian Anderson, especially Gillian Anderson, who we're probably more familiar with. Um, and obviously we're watching this in a cinema, right? So
Mhm.
we actually do, everyone who watches this in the cinema does have one perspective because we've got the camera's perspective. But what them performing in the round means is that it's very naturalistic, much more like a film. Because again, they're
Yeah,
always on.
definitely.
There can be no contrived gimmicks or performance styles because you're able to go into the wings and duck out for a second, and you can, stop acting like your character. They have to act like their character, like basically the whole time that they're on stage. Um, and so yeah, you make quite an interesting point with that. And the camera even, well, as the stage rotates, sometimes the camera even moves. And so you get like another sort of weird dynamic in terms of like you can sort of, the camera will moves to stay on Gillian Anderson's face, which is obviously something that you get with something like National Theatre Live that you don't get when you go and actually watch a theatre show like on the West End. Is that you'll be able to see Gillian Anderson's face like quite clearly, and it's quite interesting because like the set will be like spinning the whole time, but the camera will be like spinning with it, and so you have that feeling of like the set changing and moving around while still retaining a certain focus. Whereas the audience is there, obviously they would actually be then seeing a different part of the actor and a different part of the set as it spins around. And it's not the camera doesn't always move like that, but it's sort of like one of the maybe unique things about seeing it in this way in a cinema. It's quite interesting. I always find it interesting the way they edit the performances together. I don't know if you guys find this, whether they use dissolves, whether they, the way they cut and move the camera, like how it affects the performance on stage. Because I always feel like you're not just watching a play being recorded. Like there is something else to it. I don't know if you feel that. Like they're kind of
No,
taking
yeah,
advantage of
because
that.
it very like I feel like the idea that if you watch like National Theatre Live, you're basically it's the same experience as being in the theatre. That's just not
Mm.
true because they make very stylistic choices with how, like you said, like how they move the camera around. You're not getting that same experience. Um, and I don't know, like I just like it's not. I don't think it was. Um, no, it's just it's not the same sort of thing. But to like reference, like the last theatre show I
Mm.
saw at the cinema, I saw Six, and they have well, they have like a little interview section which I talked about last month, but they have like a little interview section at the start, which obviously like you wouldn't experience if you were
Mm.
actually seeing it at the theatre. And just with the way that like uh the choices they make to cut to close-ups, that's not a point of view that you would have in the theatre.
Mm.
And obviously it is a choice to make it more like a film.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's a very different experience.
Yeah, yeah, and it is interesting, like especially seeing film actors that we know perform
Mm.
on stage, but also because it is still kind of a film. We're obviously watching it in a cinema.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's the idea that like they don't have any control over what
yeah,
the editors of the footage are going to do. Like they're just
mm,
obviously they aren't performing for the camera, they're performing for the audience. So it's then up to editors to work um with their performances to a theatre audience to cut it like a film, which is such an interesting concept. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I first started thinking about. I remember I watched. I think it was called Things I Know to Be True, or was it?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. It
yeah,
was like
yeah,
a Frantic Assembly performance, I think.
yeah.
And I remember seeing a dissolve during the performance.
When is
Um,
that? Because I did that for GCSE drama.
yeah. It might have been things, or it might have been. Anyway, it was one of the ones that I studied. It might have been not
Sure.
been Things I Know to Be True, but there was a dissolve. It cuts and it dissolves, and I was like, oh, they picked to dissolve rather than just cut. So like, one image just fades into
Yeah.
another. And I was like, that's to give it a specific connotation within the scene because it's sort of a dreamy scene. And again, that just made me think, hold on, there's actually a whole thing going on here. So even if perhaps you've gone, oh well, I've seen Streetcar in person, or because that's actually a brilliant Streetcar performance on right now with Paul Mescal in it in London,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic. I've seen it; it's brilliant. But it's its own different experience. Seeing it live as seeing it on the screen, there's actually unique things about it, like we've just discussed. But Yeah, and again, those actors that you're familiar with on screen, they still do act differently. They're on the stage. Like Gillian Anderson, I think goes a lot more. It's naturalistic, but especially for her character, she goes a lot more sort of high key than maybe you would. But you still get the intricacies of that performance because you've got the camera in her face. And so she does this sort of like very exaggerated, like Southern accent, is very loud, is very like sudden and kind of bombastic in her movement because she's playing this kind of very eccentric, kind of fragile character, um, who's kind of quite paranoid and spooked and everything. And so it's like she is acting in a different way because she's on stage, but you're still kind of getting the cinematic benefit of the fact that you've got the detail of her performance as well. Almost her performance seems even bigger because you're more intimate with it, especially just because it is stage acting made into cinema. It is sort of like that element feels even bigger of it. So it actually creates a quite interesting contrast with Vanessa Kirby and Corey Johnson, who plays Mitch, because they're both much more subdued characters, still very
Mm.
interesting characters. They're much more subdued. And so it actually like kind of highlights that difference because it's like when, the subtleties about of how Stella feels about Blanche being here and, about her husband and things. It's like you can see those little intricacies more, but you can also, but the loudness of someone like Gillian Anderson is much louder. So it's like you kind of get like a much bigger contrast when you watch it. So I think it's quite an interesting version of it, and you get something quite unique. Um, that you don't get from either watching the stage play live and you don't get from watching the movie that exists. Again, I think the play is kind of brilliant no matter how you see it.
Yeah.
And I'd be really interested to see if anyone who is unfamiliar with Streetcar or has never seen it before sees this as their first time
Mm.
and would notice any anachronisms or not within it. I would be interested to sort of know.
Mm. So if we'd like to see this version of A Streetcar Named Desire, when can we see it at Saffron Screen?
So it's on only once, and it's on the 21st of June at 7 p.m. So that's 7 p.m., not 7:30. 7:30 is often when we start the films. This is quite long, it's 3 hours. So it starts earlier at 7 o'clock. I believe there should be an interval. So unfortunately, we don't have subtitle glasses available for this, which is definitely a shame. But I still hope if you can see it, you come and see it. I think it's a great play.
Mm. And what Zach and I realized earlier, if you really want to, you can do double Gillian Anderson bill that day because
Yeah.
you've got the Salt Path on in the afternoon with Gillian Anderson, Jason Isaacs, and then Streetcar Named Desire in the evening. Perfect.
Jilly Day.
A, Gi- a Gilly day. Oh,
Jilly
that's a fun way to
Day.
say.
Just as a quick note, I just wanted to clear up any confusion about the times. It seems that on the program, the wrong time might have been printed, as it does say 7:30, and when the show is in fact on at 7. But if you're in any doubt, just check your tickets and see what they say, because that will definitely have the right time on them. So if you just trust that, you'll be absolutely fine. But to my knowledge, it should be 7. So hope to see you there.
I am ready for 28 years later. Now, well, I don't know if I am ready. I feel like I'm ready. I'm a little bit terrified, but so yeah, starting, we've got a couple of, I think we've got a whole weekend of 28 years later. So it is the third installment in the franchise, 28 that started with 28 days, 28 weeks, and now 28 years later. It's directed by Danny Boyle, who has done the first two and also Slumdog Millionaire, 127 hours. And it's also written by Danny Boyle and Alex Garland. And Alex Garland also did Civil War, Men, all those like
Ex Machina, I
Ex
think.
Machina,
Yeah.
those
And
kind
the
of.
and the original 28 days later,
Yes.
obviously.
Yes, yeah. Um, so it's a very because sometimes you get franchises and like you have different people directing it or different people writing it, and sometimes they flow, sometimes they kind of stick out, and you can tell who did what like piece of it.
Hmm.
But this franchise is very um it's very neat with a bow in terms of the flow of it and the creation of it. Um, so 28 years later, I'm just going to read the synopsis for anyone that's unaware. It's basically the first film has Cillian Murphy in it, and it was groundbreaking in terms of telling horror stories and the kind of in quotation zombie films. And it's basically this virus breaks out from a laboratory of animals, I think it's chimpanzees. Um, I should know because I watched the first two, a couple weeks ago, in the dark, one after the other, and then I got scared and I didn't want to go to sleep because it was so dark. Anyway, this virus breaks out of this animal
Yeah.
laboratory. And the people that get infected very quickly. It's transmitted by blood. It's called kind of like the rage virus. So 28 years later is a group of survivors of the rage virus lives on a small island. When one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected but other survivors. So it is another step into what would happen or what could
Mm.
happen rather.
Yeah.
Um, it's got it's got a great cast, you know. I mean, the
Yeah.
other ones, the 28 so days and weeks have got great casts. I mean, they've got Cillian Murphy, they've got Christopher Eccleston. Um, now I've gone blank, but they've got iconic British actors.
Yeah.
Um, this one has Aaron Taylor-Johnson. We've got Ralph Fiennes, Ralph Fiennes,
Or fines.
Ralph Fiennes, yeah. Jack O'Connell, Jodie Comer, and I know all of those names, and I
Mm.
was so excited to see Jodie Comer in another film and to see Jack
Yeah.
O'Connell in another film as well, because I know
Yeah.
Jack
Hot off
O'Connell from Skins, and
skins. And but he's hot off the trail of Sinners just recently.
yes, and Sinners, yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but it's a great cast, and
Mm.
I was gonna watch this film because it was part of the franchise anyway, but to have this cast is exciting
Yeah.
me even more.
And interestingly, I mean, there's been obviously discussion about it. Cillian Murphy, is
Mm.
he there at all? Because he's not in the official cast list.
He's not it has been confirmed he's not in it though.
Yeah,
Because
that's what
I
they've said. But wasn't it
Yeah,
confirmed that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were not in Spider-Man No
I
Way
was
Home?
just about to say, I
that's
was
very
just about
Yeah.
to
true.
say.
So again, this so I was just rewatching the trailers earlier. And
Mm.
there's a part where a zombie rises out of like this meadow. And the first trailer I watched it didn't bat an eyelid. The second one is it's a longer shot of this zombie. And
Mm.
I was like, that's Cillian Murphy. It's not. It has been confirmed that it's not here because the actual actor that played that zombie has said, no, that's me. But then people were
Mm.
like talking about it and they're like, but did they choose that person on purpose? Because it's like, it could be him. And then also,
Yeah.
they wouldn't show that reveal in the trailer. But if it gets people thinking, there might be a cameo, there might be. Who knows?
Yeah,
So
it's true.
we will see. Time will tell.
But regardless, you've got a strong enough cast to carry
Yeah.
this film without Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I don't know how big of roles each of them have, but it looks like Aaron Taylor-Johnson is possibly the lead with a younger actor. I haven't found his name. I apologize, but I think those two are the two that kind of leave the mainland and go on this mission. And then they kind of like run into these different characters, who's played by Ralph and Jack and Jodie.
I the actor who you're talking about, the younger one, his name's Edvin Riding, and he
Thank
was
you.
in. There's a show called Young Royals, which I haven't seen, but it was
Oh.
on Netflix. But he's in that, so you might know him from there.
So yeah, they go on this mission. And I'm like at first glance and kind of reading about it and seeing the trailers, there's a slight worry that the actual story is kind of it's overused and predictable in terms of they go on a mission, they bump into different people and they run into trouble and then like everything's
Mm.
compromised. There's a little bit worry. I do have a little bit of faith that because it's that franchise, there's going to be twists and turns and it's not going to be what you think it's going to be.
Mm.
Um, Again, time will tell. Um, but the one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is the marketing for this film.
Yes.
Because like the first film, I saw some marketing shots, and like people looking back to when they went to see it in the cinema the first time. For the first one, they had like hazmat suits everywhere and they had like red blood handprints on the walls and they had masks like hanging from everywhere. Before COVID, this was very weird looking at it like after
Mm.
COVID. Um, but they like they did the job. And this time, so I found it really interesting that I didn't even pick up on this until today. So about 5, 6 weeks ago, they posted a on the Instagram account for this film. They posted a teaser, and it wasn't a trailer. It was literally just a teaser of like the trailer, and
Mm.
the caption was in Morse code, and it was an image of these skulls, kind of like all rolling in to make the logo of the franchise. But throughout this video of these skulls rolling into the center, there's flashes of different parts of the film,
Mm.
the audio over the top, and it's not it's basically hidden. There's a secret message hidden in this video, and it's all done through Morse code. So people would watch this video, and a couple of people like picked up on, hang on a minute, there's something hidden here. There's a website hidden in it, and it's called something
Mm.
like Rage. Oh, what's it called? I had it. RageLeaks.net. So you type this website in,
Yeah.
and it comes up with like a blocked page saying admin and then password. The password is also in the video. So you put the password in, and it comes up with this entire website that's like you're fully immersed in the franchise and the world for
Yeah.
28 days. And it's got like leaked in quotations, like photographs, you've got scans of like transcripts and Mayday transcripts, and then you've got like social posts from different people and infrared cameras and night vision, whatever. I got lost in
Yeah.
a little bit of it, but I thought that was so cool because I
Yeah.
know something similar from a band that I follow on a much, much bigger scale. They've done something very similar. But I was like, this is actually really cool because you've got the mainstream audience, but then if you're a franchise like lover of this franchise,
Yeah.
you're gonna be paying attention, and it's like a little something extra for those people, kind of like a reward. Um,
Yeah. It also
and
gets people
I
hooked, doesn't it? Like gets people
yeah,
engaged that because if you put in the effort to go in and unlocking that website,
mm,
you better then go and see the movie. You know what I mean? Like
exactly,
as well at that
exactly.
point.
I just love that they've done that extra step. Yeah.
Yeah, and because when you were saying it, it was really reminding me of what I did for they did this actually after the release, but with the Batman film.
Mm.
So the Robert Pattinson one had a similar thing where if you typed in the website that was in the
Oh yes, they
like
did.
Riddler's code and the website that existed in the movie, if you
Mm.
type that in, you would go to like Riddler's website and he would ask you a few riddles and you would type the answers. If you got them all correct, you got to
Mm.
watch a deleted scene that had the Joker in it. It reminded me of that when you were talking about it.
I just love stuff like that because I know it's like classic cinema is classic cinema, but
Mm.
this kind of wave of cinema that gives a little bit extra. It's kind of like the deleted scene, or not the deleted scene, the post-credit scene, but on a different scale, I think.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
love that it's added like another layer to going to the cinema.
I think it's a talking point. People talk about it and it gets the film out more.
Yeah,
And that's not to
exactly.
mention
Smart.
28 years later has had some brilliant trailers. Just some of the
Mm.
trailers are
Yeah.
just stylistically just like really cool, really engaging.
Yes.
So I'll admit I actually haven't seen the other films in the franchise, but like I
Mm.
saw the trailer for this one and I was like, "Ooh,
Mm.
I should go watch the first two and then watch this." Like
Yeah.
I definitely immediately was like, "Oh, this is interesting."
It's not, I mean, it's it's scary, but it's like it's interesting to watch it from a film like background because
Mm.
of the style, the choices that they make to actually shoot the footage, and it is like the rage virus zombie people are scary. It's not the best effects, but also that is I think that goes well because it makes it so real. It's not like
Yeah.
there's blood splattering everywhere and it's all like CGI and all this. It's like proper like it's visual effects. Um,
Mm.
not visual effects, it's special effects. Yeah, and talking of like the trailers. So the trailer for 28 Years Later, there is I was looking at some of the comments because the one thing that struck me is there's a voice in the over the trailer. So there's a little bit of chat in the beginning, a little bit of dialogue, and then the rest of the trailer is just sound effects and someone speaking that it turns out as a poem.
Mm.
So basically it's from a Rudyard Kipling's poem. I'm sorry if I've
Yeah.
said that wrong. The poem's called Boots from 1915. And basically 60,000 British infantry men marched endlessly through South Africa, capturing settlement after settlement. 22,000 soldiers lost their lives. The poem suggests that this psychological torture surpasses even the horrors of hell itself, as the speaker declares after 6 weeks of marching that hell contains no fire, devil's dark, or anything, in quotations. Only the endless movement of boots. And it is a really harrowing telling of this poem because it
Mm.
starts off kind of like a a gentle telling of a poetry, reading of poetry. And then by the end of it and by the climax of the trailer, it's there's repetition that is just it sounds like I don't know how to describe it, but like it just sounds so off-putting and
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Well, it just builds and builds and builds, and then it just like, but at the end, it feels so uncomfortable,
yeah, it
and
is
it's
very
just like
uncomfortable.
it's really freaky, like
He's
the
like
way it's done.
almost
That's what I mean.
shouting it at the end.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just pulls you in. It's just because
Yeah.
and it's because obviously the whole trailer is edited to the rhythm
Yeah.
of that poem.
Oh
So I
yeah.
wonder if that I wonder if that will play a role within the film, whether that poem is said.
Yeah.
Because obviously we haven't touched on too many of like the narrative elements, but we know we've got some sort of cult sort of characters
Mm-hmm.
in it. So that kind of weird chanting, rhythmic speaking
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing might play a
Yeah.
factor. We and of course the younger character that you mentioned in it is a soldier. He was a soldier.
Mm.
Again, I wonder if there is a theme there or a commentary that it's making, and whether it's gonna come up directly that
Yeah.
poem in the film. I don't know.
I hope there is a link to it because it as genius as the trailer is, it would be kind of a missing it'd be a missed opportunity for it not to link to the actual film.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think the trailer and all of the comments on YouTube were like, oh, this is a great trailer. Like people should take notes of how to make and edit a
yeah,
trailer.
and it doesn't spoil the plot, right? There's nothing.
No,
There's a lot of trailers
exactly.
that you watch now, and you go, "Well, I know what happens in each
Hmm.
act of this film."
Yeah,
That the trailer of 28 Days Later, you get the vibe, and
yeah,
yeah, and you've been describing it as well. It's very, kind of creepy, very. What obviously it's going off of the first two
mm,
films as well.
yeah,
But yeah, it is very much a vibe sort of trailer.
exactly. It gives you just enough, but to leave you like wanting more, basically, and
Yeah,
wanting to come and see it. Um, so a running thread between all three of them is the style that they've chosen to shoot it, and kind of show it as. So they've through 28 years later, they've used a lot of adapted iPhone 15s, 15Ss, 50, no,
yes, yeah,
15s. Sorry, can't read my own writing. Adapted iPhone 15s. Um, so it is they've obviously done that, and it's very obvious that they've done it to make you feel more immersed and to kind of keep with the feel of the first one because the first one it felt very low budget. It is it I don't know how else to describe it apart from it does look low budget and gritty and
it's very grounded
yeah,
and it's very like guerrilla filmmaking, almost documentary
yeah,
style. It feels real. So it's like kind of social realism, almost like if Ken Loach shot a zombie movie, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of that feel. where it feels as
Yeah.
real as those films kind of feel.
Yes. And you like even the bits that you saw in the trailer for 28 years later, it does feel like the first one, even though it is 28, literally 28 years later from the first one. It does
Mm.
feel like the same world and the same, it feels like the same franchise, which I know you don't always get. And I know there is the same director and the writers and creative team behind it, but it you can visually see it as well instead of just feeling it from the story and the choices that the characters make. And um, I didn't even realize at first. And then I read about this and I was like, oh yeah. And I went back and watched the trailer and the clips again. And you
Yeah,
can't tell, but it works. And it's not in any way a bad thing towards the film. I don't think.
no. I
Um,
think it's incredibly ambitious that they would do something like
yeah.
this. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of The Creator, the sci-fi movie, which was also really cheaply made.
Mm,
Um, that
okay.
had John David Washington in it, and it was directed by Gareth Edwards. And the camera for that, I mean, this is more impressive because it's an iPhone,
Mm,
um, but and it's got that great feel to it. But that film also used a Sony FX, wasn't a six,
mm,
but it was one of the Sony ones, I think. But basically, it was on the same level of the films of the cameras that I used at uni,
mm,
which was pretty crazy. So I
yeah.
love when they kind of they're ambitious and they prove how much you can do with the limited sort of equipment, even when they
Yeah.
absolutely could have more.
Yes.
And I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Choosing
say,
Fortnite.
to bolster my own point,
Mm,
I also read that actually just now it just came up as I was looking at some things.
mm.
Uh, Alex Garland actually specifically stated the film Kes, which is one of Ken Loach's probably most famous films, was a major influence on his work for 28 years later.
Oh,
So
there you go.
there you go. So if I mean that is actually so is has they are absolutely going for that really
Yeah.
grounded kind of social realist feel, but for a zombie movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the literally the last thing I will say um is that I do believe that you don't have to have all of the equipment and all of the money to make a good story. And this is like this just proves to the point. I know you've got
Yeah.
to have there are some things to make it happen and to
Yes.
put it on the big screen and to pay people, but in terms of like if you're like three people not in the film industry, if you want to tell a story, you can do that with a phone. Like you don't have to have
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
easier than
yeah,
ever now. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And it's just that as long as there's creativity behind it, and yeah, there isn't like a ceiling to anything,
No.
especially now, as you said. So, um, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so ready for this one. I'm
Yeah.
terrified, but I'm ready.
And just as a final note as
Hmm.
well, once you see this, you probably won't have that much more to wait for another installment either, if you're not aware.
Mm.
As there's going to be 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which has already been filmed, that was shot back to back with
Jeez.
this one, and it
Didn't
is
realize that.
directed actually by a different director. It's directed by Nina DaCosta, who directed The
Ooh.
Marvels. Still got Garland writing and stuff. So, but especially since it's back to back, I'm sure it's going to be much more of a continuation and much more of a steady flow through that. So, if you watch 28 years later and you're like chomping at the bit for more, in all likelihood, you're probably going to get more within like a year.
Yeah. This is worked in with the last film that Amelie's going to talk to us about is the same weekend as 28 years later. So you could do a whole weekend of it or a day of it, you know.
Mm.
So if you want to come to 28 years later, we have it on three times. So we've got it on Friday the 27th of June at 7:30. We've got it on Saturday the 28th of June at 7:30 and then Sunday the 29th of June at 7:30. Take it away, Amelie.
Okay. Um, so I'm going to be talking a bit about the Phoenician Scheme, which is Wes Anderson's 12th feature film,
12.
which is a
Wow.
crazy number. Like, this man just churns them out. He really
He
does.
does.
Considering the detail he puts into them
Yeah.
and
Mm.
the consistency he brings them out in. Sorry, carry on.
This is being called his best movie in over a decade.
Oh.
And they're kind of a lot of people describing it as kind of textbook Wes Anderson. A lot of people have said that kind of Asteroid City, which was his most recent, pulled away from his general kind of style, and it wasn't as well received, and neither was the French Dispatch. I loved the French Dispatch, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as well received as his films have been in the past. But a lot of people have been very this has been very well received because it a lot of people have been saying it feels like we're going back to kind of old Wes Anderson. I mean, there's a review from the Telegraph that says it's his most Andersonian film and a complete delight. So the premise is Wes Anderson returns with the Phoenician Scheme, a story of family and a family business. Zaza Korda is a roguish millionaire businessman, survivor of 6 plane crashes and father of 9 sons, and crucially, one daughter, a nun called Liesel, I believe. The
Mhm.
two reunite when Liesel is, against all odds, named sole heir of his estate. But as Korda embarks on a new ambitious enterprise, they quickly become the target of scheming tycoons, foreign terrorists, and determined assassins. So it's as much as it is very much kind of new kind of the same sort of story we see from Wes Anderson. You've got crazy fights going on. You've got like a focus on I believe this is a focus on kind of location, which is very common for Wes Anderson's films.
Mm.
Um it's I believe it's a made up place named Phoenicia that they're kind of focusing on here. But yeah, it's been described as I said, his most Andersonian film.
Yeah. I'm interested to see the extent to which that's true because I feel
I know.
like they
You can
say
say
that
that for a lot of his films.
every time he releases a new film, someone will go, "This is his most Andersonian film ever," and then someone else would be like, "He's gone away from what's made him good."
I
Every
know, and it's
time.
it's always it's always the case. Like I found the two featured reviews on IMDb. You've got the first one, which is 1 star,
Oh
and
wow.
it's quote unquote, unfortunately another soulless movie from Wes. And the other featured review is an 8 star, and it's Pythonesque madness. And I think it
Mhm.
just those two being the featured, it really sums it up. You've always got people, every time he releases a film saying, "Oh, it's either the criticism of, oh, he's straying too far from what he does, or it's he's just made a film that is exactly the same as everything he's done." And then the
Yeah.
praise is the exact same thing. You've got two sides of the
Yeah,
spectrum.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
really you just have to like watch it, make a judgment for yourself. But we've got a great cast going on and a lot of kind of returning actors from previous Wes Anderson movies. Um, Most notably, you've got Michael Cera, you've got Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Benedict Cumberbatch, Willem Dafoe, obviously a staple
Mm.
in Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah.
Richard Ayoade.
Richard Iodi, yeah. And obviously we've got I don't know if you talked about Mia Threepleton
Oh yeah,
that much, but obviously she's one of the leads along with Benicio del Toro. But Threepleton is quite a young actress, and
yeah, she is.
she's
She's only 24.
No.
yeah.
Yeah, and she's playing the lead. So
Well, but to be honest, she's a bit of a nepo baby though, as the kids say. 'Cause she is Kate Winslet's daughter.
Wait, what?
mhm.
Yeah, but she's got quite good praise for this from this movie, from what I've heard.
Wow. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
know
I
that.
know. I know. But
Wow.
yeah, and I mean, if we're speaking about kind of returning people, he's also got a lot of his same crew on this. Most notably though, like not his cinematographer, his usual cinematographer,
Oh,
who is
interesting.
Robert Yeoman. For this film, it's his first collaboration with a man named Bruno Del Bono.
I'm looking at it now. So he has worked with quite some high profile directors. So he did the Tragedy of Macbeth with Joel Cohen. He worked with Joe Wright, Darkest Hour, Tim Burton on a few films.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, worked with Peter Bogdanovich in the later half of his career. So yeah, I mean he's worked with some big directors before.
Yeah,
But like you say, first time with Wes Anderson.
I think it's so interesting because I mean, you've got this Wes Anderson's style is so significant and so kind of like individual to him. So
Yes.
it'll be interesting to see what he does differently and like what kind of differences people can pinpoint from having a new cinematographer and how much does actually change because I know that Wes Anderson does have a very um big role in kind of the cinematography that it's like the direction that he takes with cinematography probably more
Yeah.
than most directors do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the thing is with Wes Anderson's films is that it all sort of comes into one,
Yeah. Oh,
because like you
definitely.
say, he's so individual, but he's so specific and so rooted in one way of doing things
Yeah.
that really each shot is a combination of how the set looks, how it's lit, how where the actor's standing, at what pace are they
Yeah,
moving.
blocking mostly as well. Yeah.
It's incredibly specific to the point where it has to all be one united vision. It's not, really when you look at Wes Anderson film, it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, how have they chosen to light this set that they've made? It's like it's all one thing. It's all
Yeah.
one vision, and it does when you watch a Wes Anderson film, it really feels like a Wes Anderson film. It doesn't
Mm.
Yeah.
feel like a combination of different people. And so when you start kind of slotting different people in and out in that creative process, I do wonder how that will affect things because there's such a uniform of vision at each part of the film.
Yeah. It's yeah, and I mean talking of like collaborators that he's keeping the same, he is it's partially written by himself and Roman Coppola, who worked on him with for Moonrise Kingdom, Darjeeling Limited, Asteroid City. So just some of his greats. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you put everything into perspective, it's interesting to see just how his different films are able to be filtered through the crew that he kind of swaps in and out. But I mean, this one in particular has been getting a lot of high praise. It's I mean, the Hollywood Reporter calls it a poignant narrative jigsaw puzzle, which
Mm.
is
Wow.
yeah,
Quite interesting because it's kind of one of the two elements of saying it's poignant, but also it's a jigsaw puzzle.
I know.
Mm.
Because that's been my knock on. So I'm very love-hate with Wes Anderson. I
Yeah,
sometimes really like it, sometimes I really don't. So actually, the two films you mentioned earlier, his last two, I might have the reverse opinion from you. So I really, really, really hated The French Dispatch, and I really, really liked Asteroid City. I thought Asteroid City was really, really good. But the thing is, with a lot of Wes Anderson films, and particularly the ones I don't like, although even to some extent the ones I do, is that I don't feel that they have the emotional poignancy that I would want because of the way he's so specific and
Yeah.
his style almost feels a little bit alienating and a bit you feel the conscious style so much.
It's
And there's a little bit of
jarring,
a
yeah.
distance between you and the character sometimes. So I'll be interested to see if he sort of overcome that.
Mm.
Because I don't think he has quite with some of his more recent movies.
it's so interesting as well because it's very difficult to kind of pinpoint specific reviews because it's a lot of the same things that that we keep hearing for every single film that he makes. Kind of the idea that I've seen a few reviews for this film that have said that there's more of a focus on style rather than substance, but that is
Hmm.
can be said for for many of his films. So it's interesting to kind of be able to like pinpoint before you see it what is accurate and what is just a matter of taste because I
Hmm.
think they definitely are films that are not for everyone because like you said it feels more like you're watching kind of a theater performance because they are very with the way the set is with the way the set is moved around with the way the actors are positioned, it feels as though you're watching on rather than being immersed in a story, which
Mm.
is sometimes not for everyone.
No. But at the same time, we talk about being distanced and whatever. Actors love to work with him. Like you let's say about that cast, and everyone talks about how what a brilliant director he actually is for actors, and they really are all in tone all the time.
Mm.
Like Brian, I think it was Bryan Cranston who said like the one director he will let him just tell him how to say a line, like as in just read the line to him the way he wants to say it, is Wes Anderson because he
Mm.
has that good a relationship with him. So he is. So like like or hate the performance style that he gets out of actors, and whatever emotional intimacy you may or may not get with that. Actors clearly like doing it and like working with him.
Mm.
Yeah.
And he gets it very consistent every time. It's clearly to his vision.
Yeah, I mean, there's actors that just won't stop. They won't stop working with him. I
So
mean, Willem Dafoe, I love him in everything that he does, so
Mm.
I'm always happy to see him there.
yeah, yeah.
Was
Yeah.
happy to see him.
Always happy to see Willem.
Oh, it's just a different way of storytelling, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it's very
different.
distinctive,
Yeah.
which
Mm.
I do enjoy because when I want to watch something that I know will be so different, I'll go and watch a Wes Anderson film because I know that it will be like the most out there thing that I see all year. So
Yeah.
Nothing like a Wes Anderson film.
No, there
exactly.
isn't. That's the point.
So if we did want to see probably one of the most unique films of the year, like you say, when can we see it?
So as you said before, it's on the same weekend as 28 Years Later, just in the afternoon instead of the evening. So we've got it on two times this month, Saturday the 28th of June and Sunday the 29th of June, sorry. Both of those at 2:30 p.m.
I think they're three great contenders for June. I mean, at the moment, I mean, going from the end of May into the beginning of June, we've got Mission Impossible and Disney's Lilo and Stitch. Those were obviously
Mm.
massive releases, and there's a lot of press around those at the minute, and they're happening. And then we've got to another few to mention. We've got the Royal Ballet and Opera Ballet to Broadway, Wealden Works. That's on Sunday, the 25th of May. We've got the Met Opera. We've got the Salt Path, which is based off of the novel, which has Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs in
Basic. Yes.
Jason. Um, now that is selling. That's selling. So if you're
Mm.
interested in that, I would get in there quick because we have got it on quite a few times, but all of them are selling quite well at the moment. I know the first one's like three-quarters full, and then there's another one a couple of days later, three-quarters full. Um, and this is the 6th of June, and it's the 26th of May as of recording, and they're almost sold out. So, um, but yes, we've also got in association with Thaxted Festival, we have Quartet, which is Sunday, the 22nd of June at 2 o'clock. On the same Sunday in the evening, we've got a new kind of wilderness, which is we've only got it on once. That is a story about well, it follows a family that kind of are completely off grid. They live in the wilderness, and they do their best to stay that way, but then something kind of happens and they have
Mm.
to readjust and find the best way to cope with it. There's some great films coming up. There's a lot on that we're getting a lot sooner, which is why we've got a lot of the same screenings, which is great because people are coming and supporting us. And I already know July is looking to be another great month.
Yeah.
Nothing's set in stone at the moment, but yeah, I'm very excited.
It's bubbling over well, whatever the mysterious plans of July are.
Oh yes, they are. They are. Yeah, but I think that we had a good three to talk about this month. Um
Yeah.
any last words to pass on? I heard a little old birdie say one of the cinemas are closing, one of the mainstream cinemas are closing in
Oh no.
Cambridge. So,
Oh yes, I did hear
you
about
know,
this.
we are here, we have free parking, our refreshments are fab. We've got raked seating, all industry and standard equipment. So, 20-minute drive, come see us. But yes, until next time, we'll see you in July.
Yeah.
Yes. See you in July.